What's going on, YouTube? I'm Zach from the Lumios Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we will be talking about variants, specifically Galarian forms, and which one came first, so the Galarian or the original. It's a which came first, the chicken or the egg thing, but with Pokemon, so it's more fun. Also, we have done this before with Alola, so if you think this sounds like a really cool idea and you want to see that video, you can check it out here. Okay, now let's get in with the first one, which is one that we covered in Alola, because it also has a form in Alola, and that is Meowth. Like I said, Meowth has an Alolan form, a Cantonian form, and a Galarian form. So, we're not just asking ourselves which one came first, Galarian or Cantonian. We're asking which came first, Galarian, Alolan, or Cantonian. As stated in that video, I do think the Galarian Meowth came first, just because it talks about how it was like a seafaring Meowth, and it's clearly supposed to be like a feral cat. So I think that it was like traveling around the world and in different regions that it traveled to, eventually being domesticated in a different way over time, eventually becoming the Cantonian Meowth. Then the Cantonian Meowth was brought to Alola and bred into the Alolan Meowth. So Galarian came first, then Cantonian, then Alolan, of at least the Meowth that we know now. Now next we're going to move into the ones that we know for a fact, because there are some that they explicitly told us that this one's the real one or this one's not the real one. And we're going to begin with Weezing. So Weezing, they straight up said it, Cantonian Weezing's the original. They said that a long time ago, when the factories of Galar kind of started getting popular, there was so much pollution that Weezing just changed into this form. That's right. The pollution got so bad in Galar that Weezing, a Pokemon based off of pollution, went, "Oh, I've had enough of this," and decided to purify the air. Isn't that fun? Now, to move into the next one, we have Zigzagoon. Zigzagoon is actually from Galar. They explicitly stated that the Galarian Zigzagoon is the original, and that it's got that dark type and is very energetic and evolves into Obstagoon because of how territorial and competitive it has to be in this environment. And then when it was moved to other regions, it didn't have as much competition or as much need to fight over territory, so it eventually kind of settled down and stopped needing that third evolution Obstagoon and just being able to mellow out and become pure normal instead of normal dark. Now the next one, like Weezing, short and simple, it's pretty straightforward. Slowpoke, Cantonian's the original. They said that it is because of the Galarica that it eats in Galar, if you can believe it. It has eventually, over time, taken on this new form. So it's as simple as that. Slowpoke got a diet change. That's the only reason there's a Galarian form. Cantonian is the original, which would also mean Johtonian Slowking is the original, and Cantonian Slowbro is the original. Now we're going to move into ones that, while it's not explicitly stated, we can pretty much easily assume. And first we're going to begin with the legendary birds, that is Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Doing all three of these together because, let's face it, it's not like Articuno's going to be from Galar and Zapdos is from Kanto. It's not going to be like that. They're all going to be from the same place. And I do firmly believe they are from Kanto, and the reason why is because, well, for one, if we can go for the less obvious answer, they are tied into Lugia, both in the anime and a little bit in the games, what with Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl kind of tying them into Lugia. And Lugia lives in Johto, so it's reasonable to assume that the birds near Lugia would be the original ones. Furthermore, just look at their names. Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Literally ice, electric, and fire in the name. The people of the Pokemon world would not have named them that if they weren't the original. It may even be stated, but they definitely flew to the Crown Tundra and just took on a different form there. Another one we can reasonably assume is Mr. Mime. I think that we can reasonably assume that Mr. Mime's Cantonian form is the original, and the reason that is because if you look at the line Mr. Mime's Cantonian form is a Psychic Fairy type. His Galarian form is Psychic Ice. And Mime Jr. is Psychic Fairy and remains the same in both regions, and certainly looks more like Cantonian Mr. Mime than it does Galarian. So it just makes sense that Mime Jr. initially evolved into this Cantonian Mr. Mime, not the Galarian one. Another one we can reasonably assume is Corsola. Corsola in the Galar region is supposed to be based off of, like, dead coral. It's even a ghost type because it's dead. So, you know, something had to be alive to die. So very likely that Johtonian Corsola is the original Corsola. Now, another one that you can kind of look at its typing and tell is Darumaka. And what I mean by that is if you look at Darmanitan, it is an ice type, but in its Zen mode, it goes to Ice Fire. And it's a pretty chill Pokemon until it goes into that Zen mode. It's because that Zen mode is its inherited Unova Darmanitan kind of showing its colors. You know, it's a gene that after years and years of evolution, unfortunately, Darmanitan just can't seem to shake off. Next, we're going to talk about Yamask. Yamask has two different forms. Galarian is based off of, like, a Viking rune, while the Unovan is based off of, like, old Egyptian tombs or whatever, and Renurigus, obviously rune, Coffagrigus, coffin, specifically, like, an Egyptian sarcophagus, but, I think that we can safely say that Egyptian, or Unovan rather, Yamask is the original, just because if you look at the real world, which Pokemon certainly seems to kind of follow similarly to, perpendicular, or not perpendicular, but parallel to, if you will, we can assume that Yamask Unovan is the original because the Egyptian age, like the time of the pharaohs and sarcophagus and all this, that took place before Vikings. Now there's three left, and this is where it got a little more tricky because we kind of had to use our brains a little bit further. It wasn't as cut and dry as the others. First up, we have Stunfisk. Now Stunfisk, in my opinion, the Unovan form is the original, and the reason I say that is because if you look at the Unovan, it's pretty simple. It's almost as if it's a blank slate or a canvas. And then there's the Galarian one, which kind of has more added to it. So I'm just going for the one that looks simpler here, probably is the one that's the original. And then just after being exposed to the minerals in that cave it lives in Galar, it eventually adapted its Galarian form. Now, the next one is Farfetch'd. Farfetch'd, I'm going to say the Galarian is the original, and the reason I say that is because it seems much more aggressive and much more feral, and I feel like it's kind of a thing with, like, Zigzagoon, where it had to be more aggressive in Galar, but when it got to other regions, it stopped being so aggressive, so it lost its giant leak and just carried around a smaller one, and was finally able to fly around because it's not lugging around that big old thing. Lost its evolution. I'm thinking that Farfetch'd really took a similar route to Zigzagoon. Now, lastly, we have Ponyta. And Ponyta, I know that I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this because we do see Cantonian Ponyta in Hisui, which is Legends Arceus set in the past. So it'd be really easy to quickly say Cantonian Ponyta is the original. However, an NPC mentions Galarian Ponyta, talking about how if you do that quest for the shiny Ponyta, he'll talk about how his friend told him that there was a Ponyta that looked different in Galar. And I think that Galarian Ponyta is the original. And the reason why is because, for one, look at the place it lives in. It lives in Glimwood Tangle, which is like this magical fairy tale land. And I'm kind of under the impression that this is what all Ponyta look like. But as people started kind of growing in population, magic sort of died out, and Ponyta had to kind of tone it down in places. But in a place like Glimwood Tangle, still this magical, in the present day, Ponyta is able to thrive as its original form, which again is that Galarian form. And I think this further is backed up by it wields flames in its Cantonian form, and not only that, but we have seen in the anime that Ponyta can make its flames burn you, or if it trusts you, and it likes you, its flames won't burn you. That seems pretty magical to me, so to me it seems like that is its inherited magical trait kind of showing even to this day. But yeah, ultimately, I think that we can safely assume that the Galarian Ponyta, the more magical one, is the original. So there you have it, guys. That's my breakdown of the Galarian forms and which one I think is the original Galarian or whatever one we were introduced to first. Please let me know what you think of this, and let me know how wrong I am. Let me know if you think I'm right. Where do you think the original is on this list? And be sure to also like, comment, subscribe. If you guys like this video, we'll do more of them. I really enjoy making these and kind of using my brain around that. So definitely do that. Like, comment, subscribe, and you can also hit that bell for notifications as well. Until next time, I'll see all of you later.